As you know, is the city of fountains, but last year most of those fountains stayed dry, unable to be turned on because of budget shortfalls caused by COVID-19. Today, on Fountain Day, they're coming back. And my co-anchor Lindsay Shively live for us this morning at the Delbert J. Half Circle Fountain. Lindsay, in just a few hours, that fountain will be on once again. It's a big day in Kansas City.
It is. This is a historic day. So many people remember Fountain Day every year, and this fountain is where the city will ring in Fountain Day, if you will, coming up in just a couple of hours. We're right across from the entry to Swope Park. We're along Meyer Boulevard. It's just beautiful, and this fountain is also one of the most recently renovated. Back in 2019, this fountain got more than $1 million in renovations, and it's one of about 40 fountains or so that are going to be turned on today. And in total, the Kansas City Parks Department actually supports 48 fountains across the city. Almost all of them will be turned back on today, except for a few that do need some additional mechanical repairs. So we talked to the deputy director of the Parks Department. He says after a tough year, it's just a way to give people a little bit of hope.
So we feel like operating those fountains and people being able to see that, will hopefully improve people's mood, and it'll be just one really small thing that people can feel good about while they're dealing with everything else that is going on during this pandemic.
Yeah, so the Parks Department and the City of Fountains Foundation will be out here at 10 o'clock this morning to mark Fountain Day here at this fountain. And they are inviting the public to attend, but you do need to follow COVID-19 guidelines, like following that social distance if you come out here today. Taylor.
Lindsay, let's talk about money a little bit. Last year, Fountain Day was canceled because of budget issues. Do we know if those are still, obviously the pandemic is still going on. Do we know if those are still an issue for the fountains this year?
So the KC Parks and Recreation Department does say that their current budget only has enough funding to operate 7 of those fountains of the city's 48 publicly owned fountains. They're still planning on turning almost all of the fountains on, like we were saying, but they do say they're banking on some additional funding to be able to keep all of them going throughout the rest of the season. The department has requested $6 million from the city's over $195 million allotment from the American Rescue Plan funding. That sounds familiar. That's because that's the COVID relief bill passed by Congress. So if the additional money is approved by City Council, the Parks Department will be able to fund all of the fountains and other services like city pools, they said. If not approved, the deputy director says the fountains will stay on, but funding will have to be pulled from other park services.
One more question for you, Linz, before we go. For people who might not know the history, how did we get here? How is Kansas City the city of fountains?
This is so interesting. So look at this. The first fountains built in the city actually had a very practical purpose, right? They were basically water fountains for people and animals to drink from. They look like this. Look at this picture taken in the year 1900. Just basic drinking fountains. But then, according to visitkc.com, landscapers started incorporating fancier designs like the ones that we see all over the city today. You're probably thinking you drive by a lot that you might take for granted and not really take a good look at. And then in 1973, the City of Fountains Foundation was established to help preserve the city's fountains, because you can imagine with running water and stone and the elements, it can be difficult to keep these intact. You have to constantly upkeep them as well, as beautiful as they are. So there's 48 publicly owned fountains in Kansas City, but the City of Fountains Foundation has registered about 200 or so. I know a lot of you are going, don't we have the I grew up knowing second most fountains in the world to Rome, right? That's kind of a hard statistic to prove, but you've got plenty of options here. 200 registered fountains with the City Foundation.
Wow. And you can go to the City of Fountains location there and look up their map. If you want to go see some around town that you've never seen before, you should do that today or the next few days. Lindsay, is it a good day for fountain gazing?